What's going on, everybody? Welcome to Pillow Talk with Paul Goneau. I'm coming at you with another solo episode. Gonna answer a few questions, tell some stories. So let's get this fucking ball rolling. First question: how did you get clean? Now, to really answer this question, I gotta start at the beginning. And for those of you who don't know, I've been 10 years clean now. Close to 10 years. I'm not exactly sure the exact date of the last time I did anything. And when I say clean, like for me, I had my battle with alcohol. I got through that. For me, clean, when I say clean, it's hard drugs. Pretty much smoke weed every day, so definitely, I don't even really consider that a drug, but so I was 18. I was living at the second place I ever lived at on my own. I had just been kicked out of CAS and was living with a high school friend, Tracy. I think I'm going to say some fake names today because I don't want to throw anybody out of the bus. So I was living with Tracy, and we were really good friends in high school. She was having some problems, I guess, with her family, so she needed a place to stay, and she was like one of my best friends, so she came to stay with me, and we were just, she was and she is still attractive, but it was never that way with us. We lived together for a long time, and we slept in the same bed, and never did anything. It was like this weird kind of, she was like my sister. And so we've been living together for a few months and just drinking and smoking weed. And then she introduced me to, let's say, John. She introduced me to John, and he was homeless at the time. I had been homeless. This is not something I want my worst enemies to go through. No, maybe my worst enemies. Yeah, maybe I wouldn't mind if my worst enemies went through it. Some people need a reality check, but... So I meet this John guy, and he's a little strange, but he's very nice, and I ask him if he wants to live with me, and just like meeting him, I knew this guy for about a week, and he moved in with me and Tracy. And like I said, up until that point, I was just drinking and smoking weed. Tracy had dabbled in certain drugs, and John had also dabbled. He actually, oddest thing, carried around this like little vial of ether, and he would just, he was out there, and he would just kind of like huff it every once in a while, just like cover cover his left nose. Now, close his nostril and then kind of like huff it in through the other. And so this was kind of like, my introduction to this world. And I lived in Brampton, and around my area that I just moved, I've probably been there for maybe like 3-4 months. And then I met this dealer in the area, Jay. And it was basically through him that, I ended up grabbing like weed, mushrooms off him a few times. And then he just, pretty much like, any dealer was just like, hey, you want to try some stuff? Legitimately, like some shit. And, gave us some, I think the first thing I tried was ecstasy or Molly. And to be honest, the people that I was living with, they had done it before, but I hadn't. Even though I said I had, like I was trying to seem kind of cool. I guess I didn't want to seem like, the odd man out. So I was acting like I had done it before. But really, first time was at this place. And so, we start grabbing. And then, so where I was staying, it was a basement. And I got it through a friend. She was living upstairs. And, the landlord who she was living with was there, and there was like a kid there. And I think it was kind of like a smaller foster home, I believe. anyways, my friend got me the place, and the landlord, I want to say, was Jamaican, and she started getting along with a guy who would come over frequently, and like we had like parties a lot, and she started getting along with him, and it was kind of like a weird apartment. It was like a bachelor, and then through a door there was a laundry room, and on the other side of the laundry room was like this extra room, and it kind of connected to upstairs. But Andrew, even though he was living with his mom, he decided to rent that place. Like he kind of like weaseled his way in without even really like asking me, and the landlord let him move in, and so he moves in, and I mean the parties just they continue. I'm young. I'm like probably 18 at the time, late 17, early 18, and I have a lot of high school friends, so people are partying at my house because there's not many people in high school who live on their own, and now Andrew's bringing people over to party, and I actually remember it was like the weirdest. I think it was my first hallucination ever, and it was actually on ecstasy. I went to the gas station, which was really close to my place. I was with my buddy John, who was staying with me, and on our way back, we were kind of coming down this hill in like this small little valley area, and there was like a bridge that crossed like a river or whatever, creek, and we like stop at the top of the hill, and we both thought we saw Tracy sitting in the middle of the bridge, just like sitting there. Like we were all high that night, and so we like both had this like hallucination of the same thing, and we kind of like looked at each other and like, is that fucking? And we ran down the hill, and when we got to the bridge, there was nobody there. It was such a mind fuck. First time it ever happened, so I didn't really know how to deal with it. And I had been working pretty much, most of this time as I was partying. I was selling a little bit of weed, but doing retail, that kind of stuff. I did a lot of retail back in the day. My teens, early 20s. And I lost my job. I can't remember exactly how it happened. It was probably just me slacking and not going in or whatever. And for a brief period, I was car hopping to pay my bills. And like, if you don't know what car hopping is, basically just breaking into cars at nighttime or when no one's looking, and just jacking the money or whatever's important from the car. So, I did this for a few months, and then I ended up getting caught, got arrested, and so kind of stopped that. And then I was just kind of, home a lot. Drug use increased. Wasn't working or looking, in the period that I was car hopping. I remember being in a band at this time, and specifically one story I remember. I was just, I would lie about band practice. I'd have important things to do, and I would just be lying because I would be out getting fucked up. Like it was the beginning of that. And I remember I had band practice one night. And in the beginning of the night, I remembered, and I knew I should be home by a certain time because my boys were coming over, and I ended up drinking and getting high, and then it was by Bramley City Center. If you guys know Brampton, it was by Bramley City Center. They were doing construction on like one part of the parking lot, and they had torn up a bunch of like asphalt. And I was all hooked up and like had a lot of energy, and I like ran up the hill. But then when I got the top, I forgot to kind of slow down. And so I'm going kind of over the top, full speed, and when I land on my face, and it gets all like I'm bleeding, I'm busted up. And when I get to my house, guitarist and the bass player, they're at my place like, hey man, like what happened? And and my story to them was that I got jumped. Yeah. Kind of felt bad about that. shit happens. You live and you learn. And then, shortly after I got arrested for the car hopping, I started selling drugs for Jay. And that's pretty much how I paid for my bills and my drug habit at the time. Partying even increased into another gear from where it was before. And, yeah, I was a vegetarian. And there was one party. I had my bandmates over, all their girlfriends, my girlfriend, and a bunch of people, and I think there was a high school friend who was down from Alberta. I believe it was Alberta. Alberta or Manitoba, one of those other fucking provinces. Anyways, he was down, he was visiting for a few weeks or a couple weeks, and he was also selling drugs at the time, and he had a lot of money, so he would like buy $400, $500 worth of booze for like a one night party, and we'd fucking go hard. It'd be like 20 of us in the fucking basement, and we ordered a bunch of pizza and chicken wings and stuff one night. And like I said, vegetarian. The only thing I ate was cheese, and because there's no good soy cheese. There's no good vegetarian cheese. Anybody that tells you there is fucking bullshitting. So I wake up from one of these crazy parties, and there's somebody like passed out, fully naked, just like spread eagle, but on their belly. My door is wide open. There's like chicken wing bones all over the place. And I blacked out. So I didn't really remember when I first woke up, but as a few other people are waking up, we're kind of putting the story together. And then someone's like, hey man, did you know you had chicken wings last night? I'd been vegetarian for like quite a while at this point. And fucking, it's not something you want to hear. It's kind of funny now that I think about it. So, with all this partying and stuff going on, the landlord obviously has a problem with it. And I get kicked out. And when I got kicked out, Tracy, John got kicked out. But Andrew was the only one that got to stay. He was the only one. And it was like a weird time in my life because I didn't have anybody to like move my stuff. I barely had any money. Like I said, like my selling drugs was really just paying my rent and my drug habit. And a little bit of food, And when I left, had to leave all my stuff there because I didn't have anywhere to put it. Couldn't get like a storage facility or anything like that. Legit left all my stuff, packed like 2 bags. It was like a backpack and like a duffel bag. And yeah, fucking Andrew got to stay there. And it was funny because like obviously we had friends in common, and I seen this guy one day. And so I had this DC Shoes shirt. And I'm sure most of you are familiar. It was the big DC logo, and underneath it said like DC Shoes in like small writing. DC Shoe Co. or some shit like that. And like I used to be like serious about ironing. Like I used to iron my socks, my fucking underwear. And one time when I was ironing this DC shirt, I had like hit the ironing board, and the hot spot like laid down on the shirt in the same spot for maybe like 10, 15 seconds. And when I pulled it up, it left this tiny mark across like the, just the logo part, because that was just, I don't know exact material that the logos are made from, but they fucking melt if you heat them up. That's how you get them on the shirt. And so, being poor and not having a crazy amount of clothes at the time, I was like, oh fuck, I love this shirt. What am I going to do? And so I just kind of like started putting the iron down on different spots, and I kind of made it look like it was this design. Like if you didn't know that I did that, if I didn't tell you, you would have just thought I bought that, and like the logo was just like funky. It actually looked pretty cool. I wore it a bunch after that. But when I moved it was one of the things that, got left behind. And I see this guy at like a mutual friend's house. Like we're there and I see him wearing the fucking shirt. And I know it's my shirt because it's legit one of a kind. And this guy's telling me that like, oh no, like yeah, this is my shirt. Because I asked him like, oh hey dude, is that my shirt? He's like, no, like I bought this, and from then on I was just I don't know. Andrew's kind of an odd one, but he was staying there still and having parties. And then I think I heard the reason he got kicked out was because he, obviously got kicked out at some point. Just went back, moved with his mom, back with his mom. And Jay, I guess, was over. Like, Jay kind of hung out. Even when I was living there, he kind of hung out there. And he had a gun, and he would always kind of just, like, bring it out. And, like, just, like, polish it. Or, like, he would just do stupid stuff. And he would, like, point it at people. He'd stick, like, a laser pointer on and, like, point it at people. This is legit. And so when I left, Andrew kept having parties, and I heard that Jay was flashing his fucking piece around at the party, and the cops ended up getting called, and fucking Jay got arrested, and it was this big fucking deal. So anyways, when I get kicked out of there, I end up moving into, I guess, my ex-girlfriend. It was weird because we briefly dated, but like it wasn't very serious. And I was seeing somebody, but I moved into her basement. Like we were all friends, and it's weird when you're young. And so I moved in with her, and it was it was okay. I got a job. She was working at Randy River, and I got a job there. We used to like smoke in the back and stuff. That was pretty decent. I actually enjoyed it. Another retail thing. I did a lot of retail up until a certain point, and then I just kind of switched to like factory work. And I stayed there a bit. Partying wasn't as hard because like my ex Sonia, she lived with her mom and her sister. So like, I mean, when her mom was away, we would do some stuff, and we always got stoned. We smoked in the house and stuff. Her mom knew we smoked weed. But problems arose. I moved around a lot, and I was kicked out. Couldn't really be mad at her mom. Her mom was sweet. Let me live there for a long time. I did pay rent, but I mean, I understood. I wasn't mad. And so when I left Sonia's place, I moved into the girlfriend I had at the time, Nicole's house. And I was paying rent there. Still working with my ex, Sonia. And still getting fucked up. Still selling drugs. And while I'm staying with like my girlfriend, selling mushrooms, weed, and I'm not home. I think I was at work one day. Then someone called the house, because this is when people had fucking house phones. I don't even think I had a cell phone at the time. Or my girlfriend had a cell phone. Most people didn't have cell phones at these times. It's so crazy to talk to people. And they... Because I know quite a few people that are younger than me, and they just say, cell phones have always been around. But this was a time when they weren't. And someone called the house and was like, hey, I'm looking for the mushroom guy. And I come home from work, and there's problems. My girlfriend Nicole, her dad, like approaches me and is like, hey, so I got this call. It's for the mushroom guy. And I was just kind of like, oh, that's fucking weird. I don't know what that's about. That's odd. Anyways, lost my job shortly after that. Again, can't really remember. Was fired from a few jobs. Left a few jobs. But, so I lost my job. And around the same time period, like probably within within a week, my girlfriend and her dad, they're having like problems. They're in like an argument. And my girlfriend's kind of standing at the door to my bedroom. And she said something to her dad, and then he came up, and they're in the frame of the door, and he fucking smacks her. And I lost my shit, you know? I got in his face. You know, we kind of yelling at each other. I was like, what the fuck you doing? And this was late. This was probably at like 11 or midnight, somewhere around there at nighttime. And like, you know, I get in his face, and then her mom comes down. It's like, what are you getting in his face for? And she like pushes me and shit. And then I legit got kicked out that night. And luckily, like, my foster brother lived pretty close, so I left, and Nicole ended up following me, and we went and stayed at my foster brother's house that night. And you know, the next day, it was weird. I dated Nicole for a bit, but after that, you know, I believed I stayed at a shelter for close to a month, and ended up getting on welfare, and me and Nicole moved in together. And so, I don't know, I'm doing a little bit of drugs, but not a lot, because I don't have a lot of money. I'm on welfare, and I guess from when I was living on my own to this time, I was doing less drugs, but I was still present. I was still doing drugs on a regular basis. So we're living together for a few months, and then I don't know, like my Nana, she lived in BC, and just through the years, like I said, didn't have a cell phone. Like a lot, like I would like write my phone numbers in a book and shit, and like I ended up losing her number, or I thought I didn't remember it. I didn't actually have it down, but I kept calling the number I thought was hers. I would like Google her and try to find her name in like the yellow pages or whatever the fuck it is in BC, you know, and didn't get through. And I was just in my mind, I was like, oh, okay. Well, I probably forgot her number. This sucks. Like, I don't know how to get in touch. Like, I'm not close with my family. We don't talk. I don't even think Facebook was around at this time. And so, like, I was like, oh, well, like, you know, eventually I'll talk to her. But I was traveling home with my girlfriend, and we were on the bus, and Nicole, I think, just got a cell phone, and was talking to her parents, and her parents were like, oh, someone called our house looking for Paul, who's like one of his cousins or something, and they left the number. This is my cousin Stacy. And so, you know, she tells me this, gets off the phone with her parents, and then basically is like, oh, this is the number. I call the number right away. And my cousin Stacy fucking tells me that my Nana passed away. And for me, my Nana was like my mother. You know, being raised in foster homes. My mom being on drugs, like she wasn't really present in my life. My Nana always did the stuff that a mother would do. So this was probably the first death in my life that... Okay, when I say death, I had actually had some... Like, I had some friends and people die of, like, overdoses, and one commits suicide. So, like, I did have people in my life who died, but it wasn't... This was the first time I feel like this was the first time I actually felt how someone is supposed to feel when someone important in their life dies. Like there had been a disconnect up until this point when my friend said, like, yeah, it sucked, but it just didn't really hit me. And I was on the bus. She tells me this, and I literally like drop to my knees, and I'm crying on a crowded bus, like at like 5 p.m., 6 p.m. You know, when people are all going fucking home from work, and it was really rough, man. And because of my situation, I didn't have the means to get up to BC and go to her service, which is something I've talked about before, and it really weighed on me heavily. And I feel like this was the beginning to me starting to use heavily again. And I started selling and like selling ecstasy and stuff. I was going to raves. Like things just started progressively getting worse. Yeah, I was in business with two guys. One was kind of like a pusher like me, and the other guy was kind of like the main guy who we would sell for, I guess. Like we were kind of a team, but there was like, he was at the top of the pyramid, and we would always kind of hang out at his place. I was selling K. Started selling K after I met him. And so like I just, I was selling a bit, and I had already as a youth, I was, arrested for possession with the intent to traffic, just weed back in the day. And so I don't know, maybe most people would have stopped at that point. Maybe not. I'm not sure, but I didn't. And I guess I stopped selling before I stopped using. And two big things happened, really, that kind of led me to stop selling. I guess there was... Okay, so there's this guy, Peter, who was like one of my best friends, if not my best friend at the time. He was kind of out there. He got drunk a lot and like had a big mouth. And the other guy was Matt. He was kind of like, the kingpin guy, the guy that we gave our money to after and shit like that. And so I guess we all lived in Brampton, but we lived in different areas. And over by Peter's area, there's like a Tim Hortons. He was there one day, and he was talking a lot of shit because he was drunk. And some guys that he didn't know, like, were, hey man, like we want to grab like 100 ecstasy off of you. And so we're at Matt's place. Like we always hung out there. And Matt's girlfriend was my girlfriend's friend. Like we were all like friends. It was just like our crew. And so we're hanging out one night, and Peter's like, yeah, these guys fucking, they might call you. And I was talking to them earlier today about grabbing 100 pills. And like me and Matt kind of were looking at each other. It's like, bro, like what? First of all, like the sketchiest people live in Brampton, and it's sketchy to sell to people you don't know, but selling that amount, like that's a lot of money. And I'm completely against it right off the bat. I think this is a horrible idea. I think that Peter chats too much, and he needs to fucking, stick to the people he knows and word of mouth and that kind of shit, rather than just blurting it out to anybody that's around because you can. And so these people end up calling, and reluctantly, Matt agrees. And so get these like 100 pills in a baggie, and the plan is that they're gonna go outside, and I'm gonna stand in the stairwell with the pills, and when I get like the signal, I was gonna fucking come out and give them give them the pills. And so they're basically standing in this pathway in between some bushes. And I'm looking out a window and I see them hand Matt the money. He's looking at it. He tells me, yeah, it's good. And so I start coming out. And as I'm approaching, I'm maybe like 20 feet away from where they are. It's like Matt, Peter, and then these two other guys, and they're all standing and they're looking at. And as like I start taking a couple steps outside of the stairwell, outside of the building, like Matt yells to me, he's like, "Go back, yo, go back! It's bullshit, it's fake." And so I like turn around. I'm maybe like 10 feet from the building at this point. And like there's two dudes coming up behind me, and I have like a steel pipe in my pocket. Like I have big kind of pockets. I had like this army coat at the time. And so in one hand I had the fucking pills, and in the other hand I had the fucking steel pipe. And these two dudes like are approaching me. And before they even get to me, like I know the deal. I pull this shit out and I fucking swing it at the two of them. And there's like, they didn't have anything. I guess they just thought they would fucking, they would get the shit anyway. But so they tried to get the shit from me, and they're like, wrestling around with me, and I'm fucking smacking them. It takes a couple hits to the head for both of them, and then they just kind of like run off. And then I go up to Peter and Matt, and they're kind of wrestling with these two guys. One guy ran after Peter. Peter kind of ran off, and Matt was there. Like he was getting hit with the biggest fucking monkey wrench I've ever seen in my life. Just massive. And this guy hit Matt over the head twice with it, and he had it up again, and I just had to come up and fucking smacked him in the face with the pipe. And then I like kind of put my hand up to make sure he couldn't swing the fucking monkey wrench. And he took a couple fucking hits to the face, and he kind of ran off with the wrench, and fucking yeah, I mean, it could have been a lot worse for Matt. He was busted up. He ended up going to the hospital, and while we're like going back up to his apartment, like he has his shirt off that he's wrapping around his head because he's busted up, and fucking just like, "Hey man, like where the fuck were you?" to fucking Peter, and he's just like, "Oh, the guy pulled out a knife, so I ran." And that was his story. Me and Peter had like a huge falling. We used to hang out all the time, but he was fucking super immature. It's funny because I seen him on fucking Instagram, and he's all like fucking methed out now, and it's just like, damn man, you had such potential. You were such a smart guy. Okay, so that's the first story. That was like the first thing that I was like, hey, maybe I don't want to be doing this anymore. And it must have been 2 weeks after that. So we are hanging out at Matt's place again, like usual. And we leave. And then, I don't know, a couple hours after we left, me and my girlfriend left, she got a call from Matt's girlfriend saying that like they were just robbed. She wasn't home when it happened, but she just got home and she found out what happened. And we ended up talking to Matt, and apparently someone had come to his door, and I guess he had like a buddy who came, bought some shit, and then left. And then a minute later heard a knock at the door again, and I guess thought it was his buddy, and didn't look through the hole for some reason. I don't know. If you have a hole, fucking look through it. Takes fucking a second. Super easy. I'm not sure if this completely, would have been completely avoided, but I mean, it's likely. Anyways, opens the door, and there's 3 guys standing there. One has a baseball bat, one legit has a samurai sword, and the other one's just talking a bunch of shit. And so they muscle their way in, and Matt's just home alone at this point. And they legit like fucking take like all the shit. I mean, anything you could take with your hands. Xbox, fucking drugs, money, all the expensive shit, all the important shit, all the shit you don't want them to take. And so, that happened. And then legitimately, I don't know if this is gonna sound made up to you guys, but I swear on my Nana's ashes, legit the next day, we get a call from fucking Sherry again. And she had just got home again. But this time, the fucking door was smashed in. Like, they lived in an apartment. And, like, the whole door was just smashed in. You couldn't lock it. Like, she sent photos and stuff like that. And it was mangled. And we just thought, oh, fuck. Like, these people came back. And they jacked Matt, man. And so we were pretty scared. Come to find out, he got raided. Yeah, his fucking apartment got raided the day after he got robbed. So they didn't find, like, too much stuff. But, yeah, I mean, I didn't want to... I didn't want to get arrested for that shit. You know, it's over getting arrested, man. Too old for that shit. And so I feel like I never even re-upped after that. I got rid of what I had, and I stopped selling drugs. But me and Nicole, still dating at the time, and our relationship had layers of problems, you know, doing drugs and just being young and stupid, and so we ended up splitting up. She moved back home, and where I was staying, I couldn't afford to rent by myself. It was a really nice place too, and I remember like the last month I stayed there, I didn't pay rent, and I kept telling the landlord I would, and I didn't, and I still feel bad because he was the nicest guy. But you know, shit happens. I was young. I've learned from it. Staying at friends' houses after I leave this place. I was able to move my stuff. Fortunately, I was staying with, actually, Tracy for a little bit. I was like kind of sleeping at her place. She was living with her boyfriend. And, man, I had a friend that lived in Guelph. And so, you know, wasn't working, trying to get my shit together, and I had a friend that lived in Guelph who was pregnant at the time, offered me, you know, a place at where she was living, you know, a bed there, and so I accepted. I ended up moving there, staying with her for a bit. I got a job. I met a girl who, you know, I started dating. And things were seeming like they were going good. And then I had problems with her because she was pregnant. And I don't want to say it's because she was pregnant, but she was really moody, and she had problems with her boyfriend, and you know, I was around, and I got unloaded on a lot. And so, you know, living in Guelph probably lasted like 3 or 4 months. And then I moved back to Brampton, and I don't know, lived in quite a few rooming houses. Just where, like, rooming houses as in, like, every room in the house is rented individually. Tends to be a lot of poor people that are abusing drugs and drinking on a regular basis. It's not really like a great place to be when you're trying to get your shit together. And then I ended up finding a decent place, and there was an elderly African couple that lived there, and then a younger guy. And it was actually like, it was a house. Above was a separate apartment, and below in the basement was a separate apartment. I lived in the basement. And so I stayed at this place for a few years, 4 or 5 years, maybe even, I can't remember exactly how long, but a while. It was nice. I got comfortable. I had been moving around a lot. It was nice to get comfortable. And I'm still seeing the girl that I met in Guelph, Denise. Still seeing her. But now she lives in Kitchener, so I'm visiting Kitchener a lot. And just doing a lot of traveling, and things are getting a little more serious. And so, we end up talking about a baby. And she ends up getting pregnant. And I'm still living in Brampton, but I'm planning on moving out there. I'm working. And so, she's pregnant, I think maybe close to a month at this point. And I'm down visiting her in Kitchener. She lived in an apartment building. And one morning, I like to sleep in, not gonna lie. She was up before me most mornings. I mean, most people are, I feel like. And so she smokes. She smokes cigarettes, right? And when she got pregnant, she just, she was saying she was going to quit, but, she didn't end up quitting, and she was, sneaking around. And then when I woke up, I booked her, in mid-drag, smoking. And I got mad, and I threw her cigarettes off the fucking balcony. And that led to, an argument. And so I'm like, oh, it is what it is. I'm going to, we're kind of in this argument, and I leave, and it's, not on the best terms, but I go back to Brampton, and the next thing I hear, she got an abortion. She didn't tell me until after it was done, and it was hard. It was really hard. I went through, a dark period, and really just kind of didn't want to live anymore. And one night I made a cable cord noose, a noose out of a cable cord. And this is when people had cable. And I went outside and just kind of sat in a tree for hours and just contemplated everything, and just was really it was really hard, but obviously I didn't do it. I remember the sun was starting to come up, and I was like, well, you're not going to do this. If you're not going to do it, there's no point in revisiting. I feel like I got to the absolute edge, and I wasn't able to do it. And since then, I guess suicide hasn't really been a thing. I never really, obviously I get depressed, currently dealing with a bit of that right now, but I don't know, I've never really wanted to die since then. I was like, that's it. I wasn't going to do it. I'm not going to do it. I'm not trying to. And so, after sitting in the tree, kind of went back inside, and I don't know, decided I wanted to try to be sober. Obviously things didn't work out with Denise. I had started seeing a new girl, and she was dealing with her own problems. And I was also going to counseling. Once I did that, I decided that even though it's something I had been against for quite a long time, I decided that maybe it was time to just go and see if it helped. I didn't think it could do any harm. Nothing to lose, so why the fuck not? And to be honest, it really helped. I actually was trying to hunt down my counselor. Her name was Rose Robello. This is the only real name that I'm using in this podcast, because if anybody hears this or knows her, fucking something, I would love that. But I've been trying to get a hold of her. She was the counselor that helped me. And just really, sometimes it's good to have someone like that to talk to. I don't have family, so there's not a lot of people I could lean on, and I really needed that. And she provided everything that I wanted and more, you know? She ended up, basically trying to, figure out what I wanted to do. And I was into cooking, still am into cooking. She was like, oh, there's this pre-apprenticeship program. I could see if I can get you into it. Got into it. Fucking crushed that shit. But towards the end of the pre-apprenticeship, it was weird. It was also by Bramley City Center. It was like Clark and Queen Street. And I did this pre-apprenticeship program, and I was leaving. It was kind of like work. I was leaving where I was, the kitchen I was at. And I walked to the mall. And as I walked to the mall, going through this parking lot at Bramley City Center, and there's like, there's like a few stores outside the main building. And I'm coming up to like this small little bridge, and I'm passing. It doesn't really matter, but I end up finding this cell phone case, and it's like an old cell phone, like one of those Nokia snake phones. And I'm like, oh, what the fuck's this? I kick the box. It's just in the middle of this grass, and I kick this box, and there's something in it, and I'm like, oh, what the fuck? Maybe it's a phone, blah blah blah. Picked it up, opened it up. Bunch of coke, a bunch weighed out, and then just like another baggie with like a big amount in it. And I was like, I think this is coke. And then so I ended up going to like bathroom real quick and just kind of like checking it out, and 100% was. I mean, I don't know if it was 100% pure cocaine, but it was definitely cocaine. And so this leads to me relapsing. And I probably started doing drugs again for a few months after that. And I guess after the pre-apprenticeship program, I did really well. And was offered a scholarship to Humber, which I absolutely took, because why wouldn't I? Who's going to ride this till the wheels fall off? I'm not going to fucking not walk through open doors. You know what I mean? So I got this scholarship. It was originally supposed to be a 1-year program, but all the people that got put into the 1-year program did crazy well, and they were like, oh, we'll give you a second year. So I ended up doing 2 years for free, all because of this counseling and this pre-apprenticeship program. I owe a lot to Rose Rebello. And so where I'm living, I've been there for a few years. This is towards the end of me living there. Landlord lets a crackhead move in. The young guy who was living there when I first moved in, he's not living there anymore. And so, he rents out the room to another guy who happens to be a crackhead. His girlfriend's a crackhead. I've been around it. I know what it smells like. I've never smoked crack in my life, but I know what it smells like. A very distinct smell. And one day, I kind of go in the bathroom, and I smell it, like hard. Like he was just in there like a minute ago, and I'm walking into like the strongest smelling fucking crack. And so I banged on his door, and I was like, yo man, like I'm not the kind of person to tell people what to do, but like if you're gonna do that shit, at least go outside. Just go outside. Like I don't want to be around that shit. Like I'm trying to get clean, blah blah blah. And he seems decent. And then the next day I go into to work at the pre-apprenticeship program kitchen, and when I come back, like I had this little stereo that I kept in the bathroom so I could listen to fucking, music when I was in there, and the cord was cut, the power cord. I knew it was him. And so I approached him. We got into this big argument. His crackhead girlfriend got in my face. I told them both off. Called the landlord up and was like, hey man, like these people are smoking crack. Like, either you kick them out or I'm fucking leaving. And so he didn't want to kick him out. And like, I was in the process of getting into Humber. And so all these things were happening. I ended up, I think, starting Humber just before I moved. And it was great because one of my classmates, she was like, oh, I know a buddy who owns a house. And like, he rents out rooms and I can introduce you. And so one day after school, she is bringing me to the house. And when I get there, like, I know everybody in the house. Like, oh shit, like you guys. And so I move in there. And I mean, they're all partiers. They're you know, decent people, but they're all partiers. They all, you know, use drugs and drink like pretty much every day. Most of them don't work and are just on welfare. And so now I'm working and I'm going to school. I actually think I had at the beginning I had 2 jobs. I was doing some warehouse, like forklift stuff. I had gotten my forklift license. And so that was like my full-time job. And when I say full-time job, I mean like 40 hours a week. My school was only 2 days a week, so I had a lot of, you know, free time. And then I got another job at this auction, and I was doing some stuff. It was only 1 day a week, Tuesday evenings. And then I'm going to fucking school, so I'm doing all these things. I'm living with a bunch of fucking partiers. And it was right there that I decided to quit, man. I've been as fucked up as you can get. And everywhere in between, I don't know, man. Everything I just said, the last however long this was all my motivation. You know, and I had wanted to up until that, but not really, you know? Not really. I think the deciding factor in whether you do it or not is you have to really want to do it. You have to really weigh things, and it's just not worth it, man. It's not worth it. All right, I guess that's one question. We'll get into a second question. All right, second question. What was the first dish you ever mastered? I am Italian. So food has always been, you know, a big part of my life. My Nana taught me to cook at a very young age. Realistically, probably an omelet. That was probably the first thing I learned how to master. And I can make some complicated things as a kid. You know, chili, lasagna, shepherd's pie. But baking's never been my thing. You know? So when I really think about it, nailing my first cheesecake was probably the most memorable. Yeah. And I did it in culinary school maybe about close to 10 years ago, around 10 years ago, maybe over. And baking class was the most challenging for me. You know, too much salt, too much baking powder, too much whatever the fuck always found its way inside, you know, whatever I was making. It's more of a science, really. Baking class was rough for me. Maybe rough isn't the right word. Because I got decent marks, but I just was rarely happy with what I did. And towards the end of the semester, I fucking nailed this raspberry and cream cheesecake. It's beautiful. I hope I can find a photo. Show you guys. Epic. Are the best laughs from organic experiences or from a joke that you worked on? And honestly, both. As a fan, I enjoy the organic experiences, the crowd work, the improv stuff a little more. As a comedian, though, nothing makes me feel fucking better than when a joke that I've spent lots of time on hits. It's phenomenal. You know, the trick is finding the balance. I think, to me, improv and crowd work, that kind of stuff, is a lot harder So I kind of avoided it earlier on. But I feel like since I've been, doing my own show, hosting my own show, I've been getting a little better. Definitely think I'm getting better. Next question. What was the best / worst time of your life? Now, I've already said, I just went through at least the 2 worst times in my life. My Nana passing away and, almost killing myself. The best, though, was probably the first time I performed, man. Not to sound corny, but it was fucking life-changing. Performed stand-up, I mean. And none of it would have happened if I didn't go through an insanely shitty experience first. Because, I mean, if you didn't already know, like, I kind of got into comedy because I was going through a breakup. My ex, we were engaged, we were living together, had roots, we were getting there, and things were really serious, and then it just didn't work out, and I really wanted to do something for me, and took classes at Second City, and the very first performance from level 1, when I stepped off that stage, that was it, man. There was no going back, My perspective has changed a lot since then too, Actually, a few episodes ago, I had one of my favorite wrestlers on who was talking about this exact thing, about how a lot of good can come from, bad experiences, shitty situations, and I thought, it was funny because him being on was an exact product of that. Now, I would have had him on at some point, but he's kind of a big deal. I was gonna kind of build up to him, and I asked a couple of wrestlers, and some of them said, after the pandemic, some said they'd think about it and then never got back to me, or some just said no right out the gate, which is totally fine. But because of that, I reached out to Tarek sooner than planned, and he ended up saying yes. The moral of the story is, the road to better things is paved with pain and bad experiences. Just keep your head up, keep moving, and you'll be fine. All right, now this last one. I'm gonna be real, I've avoided this a little bit, but we're gonna do it. You guys want to see them. Last question is, can we see your pets? So I guess in a second I'm gonna go get them, or go get one of them. I'll do one at a time. It's gonna get a little crazy. I've kind of avoided it, not because I don't like my pets. I fucking love my pets, but because there's lights and shit. There's a lot of things going on in the room when I record, so I just didn't want them to fuck it up. But I'll be back in a second. First up is Jeffrey Chaucer, Jefferson. I have a lot of nicknames for all my pets. This guy's around 7 months old. Got him from a shelter. I picked him out, but my girlfriend named him. It was weird because it's, pandemic stuff. So they would only let one of us in the kennel or whatever it's called at a time. Here, turn around. Let everybody see you, buddy. He's a little nervous for his big debut. Yeah, she named him after, if you didn't know who Geoffrey Chaucer was. It's her favorite poet. So that's who he's named after. He definitely, I think out of the 3, he's definitely the one that likes my girlfriend the most. It's okay. Somebody has to, He super food motivated. as you can see, probably the most out of any of our pets. Very rambunctious. He's also young though, so likes to hop around. I brought in some treats just so he wouldn't get too crazy in here. Yeah, loves to play. We have this little colorful string. That's kind of his shit. He has a little wonky paw. When we got him, his paws just it's hard to explain, but nope, not that one. It's this one. It's okay. He's this little one here, and it like bends a weird way. Anyways, he got injured too on the wonky paw. We came home from work maybe a month or two ago, and he had knocked one of the razors off of, it was actually on the shelf in the fucking shower, so he was trying to go where he shouldn't be, but yeah, he cut his little paw. Oh yes, and this is Jeff. Okay, say bye, Jeff. Okay, come here. And this is Chester. Chester Bennington. Chester-Roo, Roo's in. Oh, Bob Barker. Yes. Christopher Wallace. Yeah. If you don't fucking talk to your pets in some sort of version of this voice, by the way, you're a shitty fucking pet parent. No, hey, back up. Back up, buddy. Okay, here you go. Say hi to the people. So this is Chester, and he's just over a year and a half. We paid about $3,000 for him, and I've had shelter dogs before, so nobody get at me for that shit. I really just wanted a golden retriever because so loving, and I've always wanted one. And so yeah, we got him from a breeder in Vaughan. This guy loves belly rubs. And he loves treats. And he loves playing, and he loves lasers. Yes, he does. It's funny because we got all these laser toys for the cats. And fucking, I feel like Chester likes them, you know, more than the cats. He's a very silly guy. Oh, okay. A little needy though, cause you know he's a pandemic dog. My girlfriend's been working from home for months, so it's like he's never been left alone for like longer than maybe 10 minutes. So he's fairly needy, but I don't mind because I like giving him lots of love. What else can I tell you about this guy? He really likes fruit and vegetables. Like, that's not all we feed him. You know, we feed him, you know, proper dog food and stuff. Up, come on. Okay, wait. Come here. Come here. Okay, good boy. Well, he really likes like cucumbers and bananas and shit like that. Watermelon. So yeah, this is the guy, Chester-Roo. And I'm gonna go get the last one. And this is Artemis Jackson. Artie. Arthur McMillan and wife. Special head, the specialist, stretch body, Dinkus. He definitely has the most nicknames out of all our pets, but he's the oldest. He's close to 11 now. Very calm, super loving. Probably the most loving kitty ever. And I'm not just saying that because he's fucking, he's mine. You know, but for real. We have a special bond. Actually, alright. Archie? His true history is he was my ex's brother's cat. And then they had a child. Her brother and his wife had a child, and they didn't want Artie around. They thought he'd fuck around with the kid too much, and so they gave him to my ex. And when my ex and I we're living together, obviously I was able to develop a special bond with this guy. And like, we truly do have like a special bond. Alright. Do you want this treat? Don't walk away. How dare you? Yeah, now you want to pay attention. But like, I mean, truly have this special bond. When I was living with my ex, we had 3 cats. And her and her daughter had 2 when they moved in. And Artie was one of them. And then when we were living together, we also got another one, Lola. And she was supposed to be mine. But then, you know, when things didn't work out, it was kind of like, well, like, I mean, Artie's mine. I didn't necessarily fight for him. She was like right out the gate, like, well, like, you should have Artie. You guys have like this special thing. And so, yeah, when she left, I kept him because he's my cat. And he's the special guy. And yeah, he also ran away one New Year's, maybe about five New Year's is ago. Ran away. I got drunk. Come here. All right. Yeah, I got drunk and passed out before midnight one New Year's. And then had a bunch of people over. Come here. Come here. And at some point, someone went outside and he got out. And it was rough. He was legitimately gone for like 3 months, maybe just under 3 months. And like winter, you know? So after like a month, after like 2 weeks of looking, it was really rough. I mean, every day looking, going out, shaking food, trying to follow tracks in the snow with cat tracks, and I don't know. Come here, buddy. And yeah, we put up signs and stuff like that. After about a month, I felt like we weren't going to find him, but yeah, after we put the signs up, got a call from a lady down the street, and she was just like, is this your cat? Send us a video. And it was him. I was actually at work. No, don't fuck around with the mic. I was actually at work, and my ex got the call, and she called me at work. And luckily at the time I lived maybe about 10 minutes from where I live right now. And so I I'm not a runner, but I legitimately ran from work home. It's probably about a 10-minute walk. I fucking did that shit in like 3 minutes and was like exhausted. I came in, I was like in tears. This guy was here. He was a little skinny, but he had survived. You know? Street's got nothing on art. This guy likes to play, but he likes to snuggle more. Okay. Really into love biting, but just gentle most of the time. Just don't get your nose anywhere close to his mouth. He gets along with Yef, but I feel like only tolerates Chester, you know? Chester and Jeffrey get along great, though. I think they're closer in age, you know? Artie's more like the godfather of the house. He's chill, just watches things and takes mental notes. Anyways, I guess that's it for this episode, guys. Thanks for tuning in. This podcast is brought to you by Neon Light District. Hit them up. Use code PillowTalk to save 10%. And by The Great North Apparel. Hit them up. Use code PillowTalk to save 30%. And we'll see you in 2 weeks. Say bye, Art. Peace the fuck out.